Hey guys, a little bit more partial factoring. So we did a little partial factoring early on in the year, and now we're going to do it to kind of as an alternative for excuse me, completing the square. So another way to find out the vertex of a problem. Easier or harder, I'm not sure. Sometimes easier. So what you do in partial factoring is you factor partially, hence the name. So you look over here and you have a couple of terms, the first two terms, and this is based on, I don't know if you remember this or not, but this here is standard form, and this guy here is your y-intercept. So at -7, my parabola hits the y-axis. And what you know is there are always mirrored points, unless this is the vertex. And there is another point that mirrors this -0, -7 point. We're going to find that point, and from there, we're going to figure out in between the two, where is the vertex, the x value or the p value of the vertex. Then we're going to find out it's here. And then after that, we're going to, we're going to find out it's here. And then we're going to jam that p value into the equation, substitute, and find out where the y is. And then it's here. Then we connect the dots and we move from there. Now, I don't even know if my parabola looks like this. I think it actually ends up looking like this. But either way, we do some work to get to this point. So we start off by factoring partially. And what you do is you take out your x, or you common factor the first two terms. And when you do that, you end up with this. So then you ask yourself, when is this part here going to be equal to 0? Because you want to figure out the values of x so that y is -7. So you ask yourself, when is x 0? And x is 0 when x is 0. That was about as easy as it gets. And then you ask yourself, when is x plus 4 0? So when does this equal 0? And that's when x is equal to -4. So you know 2 points, and your 2 points now are 0, 7. So 0, -7. And your other point is -4, -7. So this is the point -4, -7 over here. And that's great. You can plot those points there. So -4, -7, and 0, -7. But that's not good enough because I want the vertex. And to get the vertex, you know that the p value, so p, find the p, and this is, or h, depending on how you do it. I think I used p earlier, I can't remember. But you know that, oops, that's not right. You know that the equation in vertex form is this or this. Doesn't matter if you use h and k or p and q. One's from math, one's from physics. I'm so old I can't remember either one. So the p is in between these two guys. So you take the average of 0 and -4, add them together, or you can do it in your head, and you know that p is -2. So I know that I'm now going to have my axis of symmetry right at -2. But where is the vertex? Is it up here? Is it here? Is it here? Is it way down here? We don't know. And to find out what that is, you sub in. So sub p is equal to 2 into, oh, I don't know what that is. P is equal to -2, sorry, into equation. And that is what that says, obviously. And when you do that, you can sub it in either here or here, your call. If you sub it into the partially factored, it might be a little easier to deal with. So I have -2 minus 2 plus 4 minus 7, and that's going to be -2. I'm running out of room here. So -2 plus 2, which is -4 minus 7. I guess it's plus 7. And you work that all out, and that's -11. So my vertex now is then the point -2, my p, and my q is -11. So then that's my vertex down here. So -2, -11. So if I want to talk about this, and I will, again, I'll talk about max and mins. The -2 is the x value. The y value is -11. So it has a minimum. This guy opens up. If he opens up, he goes down to a minimum and comes back up. So it has a minimum of -11, and it takes place when x is equal to -2. Okay, that's that. Things get more complicated, as you can imagine, when you have a fraction involved. So that's the same with completing the square. And the problem is dealing with a fraction in factoring. So what happens is you need to common factor. So you need to get rid of the biggest common factor here. And basically, that's not necessarily true. You need to get rid of this 2/3 and an x each time you common factor. So you're going to go 2/3 x, and what's left after you take the 2/3 x out is x and then something. Now this something gets a little confusing because what you're doing is you're taking 4 and you're dividing the factor 2/3 out. And that's the same as taking 4 and multiplying by 3/2. So if you remember how to multiply with a whole number and a fraction, you just make the whole number into 4/1, and then you multiply like you multiply any fraction, multiply the tops, you get 12 and 2. That turns into 6 and 1. So you end up with plus 6x, and this plus 1 here had nothing to do with the factoring. So the factoring is, factoring is for these first two terms. So now you set these equal to 0. That's when x equals 0. So my y-intercept is 1. And that happens when x is 0. It also happens when, that's not there. Okay, pretend that's not there. It also happens when x plus 6 is equal to 0, or x is equal to -6. So my other point is way over here. This guy opens up because it's positive, so I know I'm going to do something like this. But I have to find out what my p is and my q. To get p, I add them together and divide by 2, and I can just do them in my head. 0 plus -6 is -3, so that's equal to p. And then I sub to find q, and sub that in to find q. And when I do that, I work my way through, and actually I'll do the whole thing. So in this case, let's just pretend I'm just going to put it into in the full form here, and that is -3 squared plus 4 times -3 plus 1. I'm running out of room. Let's figure out what that is. That's 9 times 2/3. So 9. I'll do that over here. 9 times 2/3, or 2/3 times 9. It goes like this. They cancel out, and I'm left with 6/1, or just 6. So that's 6 minus 12 plus 1. So that's 7 positives, 12 negatives, minus 5. So I have a min here. I have a min of -5 at x equals -3. So the -3, let's just show where that comes from again. Let's highlight this. The -3 is over here, okay? And I got that by averaging out my 2 points that I found earlier. And then this is here. So my min is -5. It's when x is -3. So if I was to just show that on the graph a little further, -3 is here, -5 is here, and there's my point. -3, -5. That's it. Okay, that's it, partial factoring. This is a little messy, but you look back at this, hopefully it makes sense to you. And we did it before also. Okay, take care. And that's it for the unit. And test, one thing you want to go over again. Actually, I'm going to make a video on a review of graphic. So I'll see you in another video. See ya.